Well, I see that there is no introduction, so I'll introduce myself. I'm truly delighted to be joining you here at the Athens Energy Summit. This is my first time, but I understand that this is the 14th anniversary of this club, this summit, and we are meeting at a critical time. I think the word critical we hear a lot. And just before coming here, I was reminded by someone that what Trump announced about Gaza Strip turning into a real estate opportunity perhaps could be another game changer with regard to collaboration, partnership in the broader region, including EastMed. So I think this is also a reminder to us that game changers keep changing. So I'd like to highlight in a couple of words what type of game changers we are witnessing in the global scene. Because what happens globally, either in Vladivostok, Beijing, Latin America, South Africa, Red Sea Houthis, and Russia-Ukraine war ongoing, it is going to impact us in the energy, climate change, and geopolitical fields as well. So we are so interconnected with each other. We cannot ignore what's happening in another part of the world because it will come and hit us, including the new series of tariffs that Trump is introducing. So I believe that the region we are talking about, namely Southeast Europe, where we are now, the Caspian Basin, Black Sea, Asian Sea, and the EastMed that we are so intensely engaged in are interconnected. So when we talk about collaboration, partnership in energy, I think we have to see this region as a whole. It's too big, I agree, but they are interconnected. To better understand where we stand, I want to highlight a couple of bullet points for you in terms of game changers as I see it. Number one is the unpredictability. I was asking John, actually, do you have any message that I should pass in the meeting? He said, tackle the unpredictable. And this is going to be a long-term business because we will continue staying in the unpredictable environment for long, long years to come. We will never have predictability, in my opinion, especially in the energy industry. So we talk a lot about renewable energy revolution taking place, no doubt about this, especially when you look at the investment figures, because I believe always follow the money motto. And last year, there was a record $2 trillion invested in clean energy globally in the energy industry. Only $1 trillion going to fossil fuels, namely oil, gas, and coal. And I can tell you that in next year's figures, there will be a very significant amount allocated also to nuclear. Not only white elephant nuclear power plants that we talk about, but also SMRs. And right now, nuclear represents about 10% of global energy mix. And I believe that over the next decade or so, there will be more and more nuclear powers coming. Even Germany, which phased out the nuclear energy, might be coming back with the new government taking place. And then you also have climate change discussed already in the previous panel. Unfortunately, there will be less and less significance attached to climate change, carbon emission reductions in the period ahead. And Trump instructed removal of climate change word from the government websites, not only pulling out of Paris climate change agreement. So even in Europe, there will be less and less appetite for climate change issues because Europe is losing competitiveness vis-à-vis US and China. Energy costs are roaring, not only because of the Russia-Ukraine war, but for other reasons. And Europe is going to be in a difficult position to meet its Green Deal and clean energy commitments. We have to live with that. And that's the reality. Whether we like it or not is another question, of course. Technological breakthroughs, especially in artificial intelligence, will be changing the energy scene completely. Because we always, I used to work in the IEA, where we always talk about the long lead time, 2040, 2050, in our projections, as well as for energy projects to show its fruits, results. Right now, the name of the game is speed. Things are happening so rapidly and fast so that we cannot keep change. That's the reason why sometimes technology developing so fast could be a disruptive force in our efforts. Then, of course, we have to talk about geopolitical tensions. We discussed in the beginning, be it in Russia-Ukraine war, China's ambitions in South China Sea, or Malacca dilemma, which might perhaps block some of the energy flowing to China through the shipping lanes, or attacks at critical energy infrastructure and shipping lanes, as is happening in Red Sea right now. So one recent example is the Ukrainian drone attack, attempted attack, at the Blue Stream pipeline under the Black Sea, just 230 kilometers southeast of Istanbul. Such things will continue. Of course, it's part of the battle between Ukraine and Russia. Russia is also attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure, but it is going to affect neighboring countries, including us, including Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Caspian nations. And I believe that in this picture, where uncertainties, high risks will continue in our part of the world, there is need for more collaboration, more understanding, more partnership. And how could this happen? Because among our nations in the region, there is little trust in each other, and also abundance of skepticism, stemming from our history, stemming from the mutual interest clashing, whatever. But it seems that in the period ahead, if there is no collaboration and partnership, there will be more confrontation, more enmity, and more zero-sum game in our efforts. I want to say a few words about Turkey. Turkey considers energy supply security as a national security matter, takes very seriously, because Turkey depends heavily on energy imports. 98% in natural gas, we depend on imports of pipeline gas coming from Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and then LNG coming from the US, increasingly from the US. Then in oil, almost 96% we depend on imports. So any volatility, any disruption in world energy system or in our region will considerably affect Turkish economy. That's the reason why I say it's a national security matter. It's no different for Greece. Right now, almost 80% of energy in Greece depends on hydrocarbons, although the share of renewables in electricity generation is increasing. For the first time last year, it exceeded that of fossil fuels, but still, fossil fuel is very important. And any disruption will affect. The same goes for LNG. I mean, Turkey imports a third of its gas needs as LNG, and more than 30% coming from the United States all the way. I believe that this is a smart geopolitical balancing act, depend on Russia for pipeline gas and US on LNG. But we shouldn't too much blinded by reliance on natural gas, because whenever we go to Brussels to talk with the European Union or among us, the main topic is always natural gas. It's important, of course, for Greece also, for electricity generation, almost 37% comes from natural gas. Therefore, it's a primary responsibility. But there are other energy sources that we have to focus on. Electricity interconnection, of course, between the countries. Turkey buys from Georgia, sells to Syria and other countries. Between Turkey and Greece, there is an interconnection, although small, which can be expanded further. And Turkey is also going nuclear. Since 1970s, we're working very hard on building nuclear power plants, but it hasn't happened. Both Turkey's incapacity, inexperience, inefficiencies played a role in that, but also some of the Western countries didn't want to share the nuclear technology with Turkey, fearing that it might lead to upgrading its nuclear capacity and something else that nobody wants in the region. But Russians provided it. Rosatom is now building Turkey's first nuclear power plant, 4 gigawatt, on the Mediterranean coast. And there is a second and third one in the planning stage. One in Sinop, which French and Japanese wanted to build, but they pulled out for, I think, feasibility reasons. Another one in Tracia. And again, when you build such nuclear power plants, which will affect the neighbors, so there has to be close consultation, cooperation, and partnership. And the same goes for EastMed. Egypt is building its first nuclear power plants, again by Rosatom. And we were having a discussion about the collaboration in Mediterranean, especially in energy, and it came out that China and Russia are so omnipresent in the Mediterranean to the detriment of the EU. They are the new game changers. If EU continues the way it works in the Mediterranean, not treating the region as a priority, not treating them as equal partners, not providing investment and finance, focusing only on migration issues, very dear to their hearts, I think there is a high possibility that Mediterranean might be a region which is dominated or largely influenced by other external powers, like Russia, China. Now Iran is out of picture as a result of Israeli actions in the region and removal of its proxies in the region. But it is, as I said, interconnected, what happens in EastMed and in the Caspian. Azerbaijan, I think, now chairing the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, they also announced a new green energy corridor project from Caspian to Black Sea and Europe. And there are many projects. There is no shortage of them. The reality is, if the trust is there, if sides consider the challenges and unpredictabilities, uncertainties in the region, realize that the only way to deal with them is collaboration and partnership, I think we can overcome with them. I mean, look at Turkish-Greek relations. Long-standing disputes, most of them now sleeping in the corner, put in the freeze. And most of them are related to the past. Perhaps energy might be the bridge again to rebuild the confidence, to reduce skepticism among countries. I used to be a diplomat as well in Turkish diplomatic service in my previous life. Then I was the head of IEA, Asia Pacific, Latin America, OECD investment program, British Gas. So now I realize also the power of private business. Diplomacy alone by governments will not work these wonders. So you have to bring the power, the influence, the weight of the private business, because they are the ones who are going to put the money behind all these infrastructure and energy projects. Without them, and also without the international financial institutions, development banks, institutions like European Union, you cannot achieve much. So it is an attempt to bring together key stakeholders, focus on common interest. There will be always competition, enmity, disputes here and there. But if you focus on that, I think the situation might be different. One key message I want to give here is that the regional collaboration is really important. And in EastMed, we saw one aspect of EastMed Gas Forum failing. It was created in such a way that will foster collaboration, partnership, but it hasn't worked. And it has created some achievements. I think we can build on it. It has to be inclusive. Because if you include Israel, Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece, but exclude some other major powers to reckon with, Turkey being one of them, because if you don't include Turkey, it could be a spoiler in the region. If you include it, it could be a constructive partner, but perhaps a difficult partner, but you have to deal with it. And now Syria came to the fore, and we are talking about reconstruction at the value of, estimated value of $400 billion to build Libya, rebuild Libya. The same in Gaza, the same in Ukraine. Again, without financial resources, private sector, and multilateral regional efforts, this is not going to happen. So I can carry on long, but I think I have to stop here so that there will be time for questions or for the next speaker to come. And there is a paper that I prepared, which might be, I'm sure, available through the organizers. And I look forward to our dialogue to continue. Thank you.